And joining us now to talk more about the movies of the week is film critic Richard Crouse. So, Richard, first up, we have Sinners. We just saw a clip of it there, and I think I already have anxiety just from watching that clip. Twin brothers return to their hometown to start their lives again, and they discover that an even greater evil is waiting to welcome them back. What do you make of the movie? How do you rate it?
Well, this movie isn't exactly what you think it is going in. It's being sold like it's a supernatural thriller, and it is absolutely that. But the director, Ryan Coogler, is describing it as being genre fluid, which means that it starts off as one thing, morphs into something else, and then morphs into something else after that. So what begins as the story of two brothers that are ambitious, that want to come back after fighting in World War I, after working for Al Capone in Chicago. They want to create a life for themselves and a community for themselves in this little town in the segregated Jim Crow South where they grew up. What happens after that is, well, supernatural. It takes a very determined supernatural left turn, but it all works together because you have these themes that are brought up in the first half, which is fairly straightforward. And then once the vampires show up, it seems like it becomes something else, but great genre movies, great monster movies are never just about the vampires. They're about the society that the vampires exist in, and it's commenting on that. So this film is rich in detail. It is rich in themes. It's also knee-deep in blood by the time we get to the gory stuff, but it's really something. And Michael B. Jordan, who plays both lead characters, is tremendous in this. So Sinners gets 4 stars out of 5 for me, and it's in theaters this weekend.
A moving feast of genres, some might say. So,
absolutely.
Next up, we have One to One, John and Yoko. It's a documentary exploring John Lennon and Yoko Ono's time spent in New York in the 1970s. What do you make of this one, and how do you rate it?
Well, this one's interesting because it's very much a documentary, but it's not a traditional documentary. There are no talking heads. There's no new material. There's nothing that was shot after about 1972 that appears on screen here. There's a couple of little recreations, but they fit in very nicely with the rest of the material. But this is about John and Yoko in a tiny little New York City apartment where they first lived in Greenwich Village for about 18 months. Before they more famously moved to the Dakota uptown. But when they first got there, John Lennon was obsessed with American culture. So he sat in front of a television with a remote, and he would watch television for hours and hours and hours. So what the film does is replicate that experience. It'll have a clip of Walter Cronkite reading news about the Vietnam War, then a little bit of static, and it's John and Yoko on the Dick Cavett Show. A little bit of static, and there's some beautifully restored concert footage that really hasn't been seen before that they'll add in here. So it replicates the experience of flicking around the stations at the same time that John Lennon would have been doing it. And it's immersive, and it brings you in. And by the time you figure out exactly where you are, by the time you get into the groove of it, it's like you're back in 1972. So One to One, John and Yoko, which also has some unheard not only music, but phone conversations with John and Yoko that are fascinating as well. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and it's in theaters right now.
Okay. Richard, and only about 30 seconds left, so just quickly before you go, The Wedding Banquet. Tell us a little bit about that one and how you would rate it.
The Wedding Banquet gets 3.5 stars out of 5. It is the story of 2 couples who come up with an unusual way to solve both their problems. The interesting part about this is that it's very definitely a rom-com. It has all the trademarks of a rom-com, but it also has some really deep, poignant moments that elevate it. So, as I said, 3.5 stars out of 5, and it's in theaters this weekend.
Film critic Richard Crouse, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.